How's everyone doing? This time we'll start covering the entire Halo novel series in chronological order. Today, we're kicking things off with Halo Cryptum. Without further ado, let's begin.
We meet Born Stellar, a young Forerunner residing on the planet Edom. Sent there as punishment by his father, Born Stellar comes from a family of builders. The young Manipular begins his journey to Earth the Tyrant, a human planet where this species was exiled after losing the war against the Forerunners. Born Stellar did not want to follow in his father's footsteps to become a builder, which is why his father punished him by sending him to Edom to work with the miners. During his journey, he meets Chakas and Riser, two young humans who were programmed by the librarian to accompany Born Stellar on his quest for artifacts left by the precursors. Chakas and Riser guide the young Manipular to the Camon King crater, partially influenced by his Ancilla as well. After overcoming several obstacles, they arrive at a Cryptum, guarded by massive war sphinxes that, surprisingly, did not attack them. The young Manipular was aware of the dangers of tampering with these Forerunner artifacts. Suddenly, the Cryptum unlocks thanks to the encoded instructions left by the librarian in the humans, thereby releasing the Didact. The Didact is an ancient military leader who fought in the war against humans. The young Manipular could not understand why such a leader had been exiled far from his origins. At Charum Hakor, the Didact sought to reunite with the humans and Shum leaders, but they found nothing. The planet had been devastated. The young Manipular asked the Didact what they were looking for, to which he replied, a captive being a prisoner of the humans. The Didact explained that the humans had once communicated with this being, but were so terrified that they chose to exile it, never wanting contact again. He also spoke about the Human Forerunner War, a memory he shared with everyone present through their Ancillas, causing great confusion in Chakas and Riser. However, the Didact set them aside for a moment and provided the humans with Forerunner armor and Ancillas, granting them knowledge to prepare for their eventual encounter with the librarian. While searching other planets like Faun Hakor and Nauk Ben for the prisoner, the Didact explained the reason for his exile. He revealed that he had opposed the construction of a weapon capable of eradicating all biological life to combat the Flood. Instead, he proposed a less orthodox solution, isolating infected planets in quarantine zones and containing outbreaks rather than resorting to mass-scale destruction. These were the Shield Worlds. However, he lost the political battle, and he and his supporters were exiled. After exploring Faun Hakor and Nauk Ben, they found nothing that could provide the Didact with vital information. On board this ship, the Didact proposed mutating the young Manipular, granting him a new physical form and access to the millennia of knowledge the Didact possessed. This was to make him more effective, as intended by the librarian. The young Manipular agreed. As the young Manipular adapted to his changes after the mutation, the Didact directed his ship to another orbit within the Sanshum system. There, they encountered an old war companion, the Confirmer. The Confirmer informed him that the weapon proposed by the Master Builder had finally been completed. This weapon, called Halo, had undergone testing in the system near Charum Hakor. This alarmed the Didact as he realized the tests might have released the prisoner they were searching for. The prisoner, referred to as the Eternal by the Confirmer, terrified him. However, neither the Didact nor Born Stellar fully understood what this being was or the danger it posed. The Confirmer added that before the activation of Halo, the librarian had visited Charum Hakor and taken a few Sanshun specimens with her. The Didact requested permission from his friend the Confirmer to descend to the planet in front of them, Janshurkom, to speak with the Sanshun leaders. His friend granted permission. The Didact, Born Stellar, Chakas, and Riser descended to the planet. Along the way, the Didact explained that humans were the first to defeat the Flood. However, at the same time, they were at war with the Forerunners. The humans lost that war, and the Forerunners sought to learn how they had managed to defeat the Flood. When the humans refused to share this knowledge, the Forerunners devolved them and exiled them to Earth the Tyrant. Without a clear way to combat the Flood, the Master Builder proposed creating the Halo, and it seemed he had succeeded. Upon reaching the surface, Born Stellar and his companions were confronted and surrounded. The Master Builder himself, known as Faber in the Council, appeared. Faber arrested the Didact for escaping his Cryptum and detained the humans as well. However, he spared Born Stellar because of his builder heritage and the influence his father wielded in the Council. Faber requested that Bornsteller be returned to his home planet, a request that was granted. Bornsteller was sent back to his native world, while the Didact and the humans awaited sentencing by the Master Builder. Back on his home planet, Bornsteller noticed significant physical changes in himself and felt another presence growing within him. Additionally, he was beginning to assimilate all the Didact's memories. His mother and sister were happy to see him again and share small stories with him. However, his mother emphasized that everything happening was part of the librarian's plan. While the specifics of the plan were unclear, they chose to remain silent, suspecting their family might be under surveillance due to Bornsteller's role in freeing the Didact. One day, while walking around his house, a place he rarely visited, Bornsteller saw his father speaking with a young builder. What caught Bornsteller's attention was their conversation. The activation of the Halo ring in the Charon hacker system had been authorized as an experimental test. However, the second activation directly on Charon hacker was not authorized. The Master Builder had fired the Halo ring to decimate the Sanshun. They had been creating makeshift weapons to resist the Forerunners and had rebelled, though they ultimately surrendered. Yet, the Master Builder, refusing to forgive this offense, abused his authority and activated the Halo ring on the planet. This act was utterly condemned by the Council, as it violated the principles of the mantle. Moreover, a higher tier Ancilla, one superior to those the Forerunners normally controlled, had been commanding the Halo, a strange occurrence, as such a weapon was supposed to be operated only by a Council-designated Forerunner. During a family dinner, Bornsteller's father asked him what he had seen at Charon Hacker. Bornsteller explained that they were searching for the prisoner once guarded by humans but had not found it, likely because it had been freed after the ring's activation. His father, visibly terrified, confessed to his son that he had designed 12 Halo rings, which his guild had constructed and placed into orbit to combat the Flood, a threat tied to that prisoner. However, the Master Builder abused his power by activating a Halo ring unauthorized, and now Bornsteller's father feared he might also face judgment as an advisor to the Master Builder. Following this revelation, news spread across Forerunner communication channels. The Council issued a summons for Bornsteller to the capital, announcing that he was now in charge of Forerunner defenses. His father, deeply worried, could not refuse the order. With the Master Builder deposed and likely to be prosecuted, Bornsteller's father feared his own involvement might also be scrutinized. With sorrow, his father apologized to Bornsteller for not being present during his upbringing and for all that had transpired. He expressed hope that, when Bornsteller returned, he might be able to make amends. It was also revealed that 11 Halo rings remained in orbit while one was lost. The lost Halo was reportedly controlled by an AI far superior to any other. Bornsteller would now be taken to the capital as requested by the Council and would testify against the Master Builder. Once aboard the Council ship that would escort him to the Didact, Bornsteller received a new suit of armor and the librarian's Ancilla, the same one that had guided him on Erde Tyrene, now at his disposal. Upon arriving at the complex, he was greeted by the same counselor he had seen at his home, named Dust. Dust was assigned to oversee Bornsteller and explain how to access the ship's knowledge systems, the current state of affairs, and some details about the Flood. Finally, he guided Bornsteller to the Council chamber. During this time, Bornsteller reconnected with the Didact's memories. The Didact drew his attention to the Flood, explaining how a galactic entity was causing imbalances in the galaxy and how this affected the mantle. The Flood reached human planetary systems aboard unmanned vessels, in the form of spores contained within cylinders. When humans discovered these cylinders, they analyzed them but found no trace of living DNA. However, they experimented with the spores and discovered their potential psychotropic effects on certain animals. One animal in particular, called the Feru, was domesticated using the spores and quickly became a prized pet, traded in black markets. The Sanshun also joined in this process, mixing the spores with the Feru to expand their domestication without considering the potential consequences. Over time, the Feru began to mutate, developing beautiful fur but also exhibiting aggressive behaviors, such as attacking other species, despite being herbivores. This shift puzzled both the humans and the Sanshun, who no longer viewed the Feru as pets and sought a cure for their altered behavior. Some Feru were sent to Faun Hakor, where humans began to consume them as food. However, this led to the disease spreading to humans, causing changes in their limbs and severe bodily deformations. Thus, the flood was born and quickly spread to the Sanshun. The disease's propagation through cannibalism among the infected led to the flood's rapid expansion across dozens of worlds and thousands of individuals, triggering a galactic crisis. In a desperate attempt to combat the flood, advanced humans sought answers from the mysterious prisoner mentioned in the book. While some of the answers were not well received, they eventually found a cure. They inserted programmed genes into the flood to destroy its infectious genes, using a form of biomolecular weaponry. These desperate measures successfully contained the flood spread, with the remaining specimens fleeing to other planets. However, the genetic modifications humans made to save their species made them more aggressive. They began targeting other worlds, often those with minimal traces of flood infection. Unbeknownst to them, some of these worlds belonged to the Forerunners. These actions alarmed the Forerunners, who believed the humans were attacking them, sparking the war between the humans and the Forerunners, a war in which the Didact played a significant role. This war ultimately ended in defeat for the humans, who were forced to retreat to their remaining empire at Charum Hako. There, the Sanshum surrendered, having remained uninfected by the flood, though the planet's animals were eradicated. The humans also surrendered to the Forerunners. The events involving the flood became a crucial chapter in Forerunner history. However, this history was kept secret by the Master Builder, Bornstellar's father, and their guild. Their goal was to combat the flood without alarming the population about the danger it posed. To achieve this, they created the Halo Rings, a drastic measure to contain the flood spread and prevent its expansion. Upon arriving at the capital, Maitrillian, Bornstellar was escorted by young counselors, including Glory and Dust. Once inside the amphitheater, as the council began issuing its judgment against the Master Builder, Bornstellar noticed something unusual. The 11 Halo Rings were in orbit, all aimed at the capital, a clear violation of protocol. Suddenly, a green-lit Ancilla appeared before Faber, paralyzing everyone in the amphitheater. Their armor, Ancillas, and war sphinxes were also deactivated. The Ancilla, later known as Mendicant Bias, forcibly took Bornstellar, now carrying the Didact's essence. However, the Didact managed to dictate a sequence of codes that disabled Mendicant Bias. Taking advantage of the disruption, Bornstellar and the young counselors, including Glory and Dust, fled. As they regrouped, the Halo Rings began aligning themselves toward the Forerunner capital. Once the amphitheater returned to normal, the Forerunners, Ancillas, and Sentinels mobilized to defend Maitrillian. Mendicant Bias was preparing to fire the rings, gaining control over 5 of them, while the remaining 6 resisted the order. The Forerunners were forced to destroy the control rings to prevent their activation. Intense combat broke out as the Halo defense systems counterattacked with their Sentinels. Ultimately, 3 of Mendicant Bias's control rings were destroyed. The remaining rings managed to open a portal and escape the attacks, taking 7 Halos to their origin site, the Ark. Bornstellar, now fully transformed into the Didact, reunited with his wife, the Librarian. The Librarian revealed that the Master Builder had secretly kept 2 humans alive because they might be the secret weapon needed to combat the flood. These humans retained memories of how to fight the parasite and could potentially help locate the prisoner, who may have manipulated Mendicant Bias. At that moment, the Didact remembered the prisoner's cryptic words spoken in an ancient language.
We meet again, young one. I am the last of those who gave you breath, form, and life billions of years ago. I am the last of those your kind rose up against and ruthlessly destroyed. I am the last precursor, and our answer is within reach.
And so, we reach the end of the story of Halo Cryptum, the beginning of the Forerunner Saga. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be working on the next video, continuing with the following chapter on this epic journey. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.